Welcome back to rTech. Today we review the Cooler Master Liquid 240 ml. So I picked this one up for about $7.5K, and this was for my AMD Ryzen 3500 processor. So let's quickly unbox this thing. And this thing has got a nice packaging on it, made by Cooler Master, of course, one of the well-known brands for cooling your CPUs, making good computer cases. And this one's the RGB version. So it's not as fancy looking as one of the Corsairs or the NZXTs, but this one's a couple of bucks cheaper than those dual pair 120mm radiators which you get in the market. So this one has an RGB controller. It's compatible with motherboard ARGB inputs. So if you have a software on your motherboard like the Aura or the Polychrome on your ASRock, you can actually connect the system directly to that and control these LEDs using that. So here are some of the specs of this liquid cooler for your CPU. So it's an all aluminum heatsink. Comes with two pairs of fans, 120mm each, and they have a RPM rating of 650 to 2000. Fan noise levels are between 6 to 30 decibels. They have the 4-pin connectors, of course, so they're really cool. They have the PWM optimized fans. Pump noise is rated less than 15 decibels. This is really cool, and has a 2-year warranty. On the other side, you can see that it has an RGB cooler. That's one of the main selling points of this, and it also has a controller. In case you don't have anything that you can control via motherboard, you can connect this directly and use a manual mechanical controller. So let's quickly go ahead and open this box up. So inside, the whole setup is visible right away. You have the fans, which are nicely packed in the side, and I love the way these look. It's got these transparent blades with a nice angle to it, and really look like high quality stuff. And these fans have the braided cable as well on them, along with a 4-pin connector, which means they really have the PWM module in the fans rather than a normal fan running at all speeds. So there's more control over your fans, and there are two of them neatly packed. So there is the radiator, which is actually fixed to your pump, as is with any other cooling system, and it's a very slim design. So there is braided tubing, as you can see. Okay, so the pump itself has this nice copper plate at the bottom, which is protected by a plastic sheet, and it also has a cable. Again, there's an RGB unit on the pump head as well, so that Cooler Master logo which you see there will also glow once you connect this to an RGB controller. So the pump itself comes with a 3-pin connector, and then you have the ARGB module which you can plug into your motherboard directly. There's a ton of accessories and everything you need to put this up on your CPU case. There's a whole pack load of stuff, including extension cables, extension pins, splitters, and everything that you would need, right from putting this on an Intel socket to an AMD socket of different eras. So you have everything that you need. And also the most important thing here, the RGB controller plug is also available. Just take that off to give you a closer look. There you go. And I'm not going to use this on my motherboard because my motherboard has a built-in controller, so I wouldn't be using that. Here's the pump itself, and I like the way this whole thing is braided, and the tubing looks like it can take some sort of beating and you're not going to damage it easily, which is nice, because this is something that tends to get cut easily or get knocked off or gets pulled when you actually fit it on, and this thing is protected so well. And this is a dual stage pump. You can notice the difference in the levels. The input is actually at a different height as compared to the output, and the fan itself is so nice. I mean, it's designed so beautifully. Of course, this is the LED fan, so the blades are transparent so that they could disperse the light. I'm gonna get this fixed on an AMD Ryzen 3500, and this is the ASRock B450 Legend board. It's an M80X board, so it's a little small, and I'm gonna think of putting this as an exhaust setup, because you can either put the fans in a direction where it pulls in air from outside, or you can use it to push out the exhaust air outside the case. So I'm going to mount it upwards, which most of them do. So I'm just trying to see that if I put this on the top, it's going to vent out all the air from the cabinet. Of course, just trying it out, I kind of have to see what's the best position it has. Maybe put it the other way around. So I'm going to fix the clips required for the AM4 processor. Putting these things together could be a little tricky at first, but you'll get the hang of it. When you look at the instruction manual, you'll understand how easy it is to actually put it together. You see, I'm doing the trial and error method too, so I couldn't figure out how exactly I put this together. So I did a couple of tries and then finally understood that the cooler pump itself doesn't have any threads to it. So you'll have to actually use the metal plate to get the thread going, and for that you'll have to put the plate below the pump. Then let's mount the fans on the radiator, and I love these thumb screws. So it's so easy to actually put these fans onto the radiator. And now time to club all of these LED controller cables together. So Cooler Master has been nice to give you these kind of pins. They look like jumper pins, but they have dual-ended popping out pins, or whatever you call them, so that you can plug them on to each other and club them as one single cable, which has an RGB output, and that goes to your motherboard as shown in the picture. So once you do that, what I've done right now is fixed the radiator setup at the top of the cabinet. This is the H500 Cooler Master again. Did a lot of trial runs, and then what we're going to do now is add a little bit of thermal paste. Make sure you just clean the surface with alcohol, the processor surface. And then once you're absolutely sure that everything is in place, align the whole thing again, check it once or twice again, and then finally apply the towel paste. Just put as little as you can. That's what they always tell you. So I'm just going to put one big drop and then few smaller drops around it, not much. So then diagonally add all the tightening screws for the pump. So in this case it's just two of the screws. Just tighten them gradually, side by side. So once this is done, make sure you connect all the cables, the pump cables as well as the radiator cables, to kind of the individual slots on the motherboard. And once everything is done, you can see that there's just one ARGB cable going to the motherboard. I'm not using the controller here, I'm using the motherboard controller. And this is how the setup should look. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Wow, look at that cooler pump. So that actually glows exactly how everything else glows here. So they're all connected to the same cable, and the motherboard is actually controlling all of these lights. I wouldn't say the fan has the best LED display in it, but it does a good job. And I like the logo glowing in RGB on the pump itself. These are a bit noisy. The fans are noisy. If it crosses 1500 RPM, it's going to be very noisy. So just remember that. So let's get back to the temperatures. just to kind of understand whether this thing does a good job on the Ryzen series of processors. So on the 240, using the 240, you'll see the readings on the left, and I'm running Premiere Pro so that the CPU is loaded well enough, and you would see two clips. So on the right, I was using the Corsair H55 cooler previously, and there's been a lot of changes in the temperature. Okay, with the ML240L, the average temperatures on load with Premiere Pro running along with the screen recording software was coming up to roughly 55 degrees at max. And this is after running the process for about 5 minutes, which is really decent. And for the H55 Corsair, on load, I saw a temperature reading of around about 66 degrees and picking up 65 to 66 degrees, and this was at load running Premiere Pro. So that's a 10-degree difference using, a dual fan 240mm radiator as compared to 120mm. So that's the kind of difference you're seeing. So the temperature has actually gone up to 67 degrees for the H55. So yeah, it's probably close to getting to the 70 mark, but I think for the ML240L, you wouldn't see it crossing 60 degrees easily. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. So 10 degrees is what you save using the ML240L as compared to a single fan radiator. So that's good difference for me, and that's what I wanted to show you with this small video which I made. So that's it from me about the ML240L liquid cooled CPU at a budget from Cooler Master for your AM4 processor. Do like the video if you like it. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching rTech. Have a good one.